Zoom, or you can come and meet us in our offices.
You can come and have some chocolate.
At the moment, you can come and have some chocolates. Exactly. So today we've got a number of things to talk about, waffle on about, highlight, excite you.
Waffle. We're going to be
clear,
very clear and concise in true Dee and Phoebe style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Gosh, because HR's got,
it's been a big start to the year already.
It has been a big start to the year. Here we are. Let's just share the screen.
Start your slideshow.
Where's that going? How do I do that?
Lucky we're HR professionals and we are not technologically challenged. I think you need to go slideshow.
There we are. Play from start.
Play from start.
Okay, there we go. All things. Oh look, and we've got our team. Our team has got bigger.
I know, we've got a couple more faces to add into that, which is very cool.
Yes.
So
wait, do you know we didn't even plan to coordinate between the orange and purple there, but there we go.
Well, it's because we're in tune to HR Dynamics branding.
Excellent. Okay, so first things first, we just have to talk about JobKeeper. Hopefully this is one of the last times we talk about JobKeeper, but for those businesses that are still on JobKeeper, unless you have been living in a bunker in the middle of the earth, you should know that it's about to come to an end.
Maybe with those people with their head in the sand though.
Yeah.
That are pretending that it's not coming to an end.
Yeah, exactly.
And Monday's going to bring a new piece of legislation or a new...
Well, there was a lot of talk, I know, up in Far North Queensland, that there would be another package for JobKeeper for potentially this region or for certain industries, but I know something's come through for the aviation department, but...
Go back.
Great. There's Bex. Bex got sick of us talking about the other screen. Stay there. But it has... JobKeeper's finishing for most of us, unless we have the CEO of Qantas or the director of HR from Qantas or one of the airlines, then probably you're not going to be able to continue JobKeeper.
That's right. So what does it mean? In a nutshell, because like I said, we've been banging on about JobKeeper for quite a long period of time. Saturday sees the end of JobKeeper. What it means immediately is from Sunday, your employees will revert back to their normal...
Monday.
I think it's Saturday. Anyway, let's go Monday. Monday's the start of the work week for next week anyway.
Yeah.
Your employees are going to revert back to their pre-JobKeeper position. So that would be a full-time position. If they were full-time before JobKeeper and had a reduction in hours, they're going to go back to their full-time hours. They're going to go back to their rates of pay. So if you have not got your plans in place, and you're banking on your JobKeeper enabling directives to continue on past Monday, we're going to be the bearer of bad news today and say we have no indication that you're going to be able to use any of those requirements going forward. So you need to have your plans in place.
Because I think there were two really important things with JobKeeper allowed us. One, you got some financial assistance.
Yep.
Yay, everyone loves that. But secondly, in an area that I know was really helpful for a lot of business, is that it allowed you to make your full-time or your part-time staff work reduced hours. So whereas before they were 38 hours, you may have been having them working only 3 days a week on 20 hours, or it was called the enabling directives. They no longer exist. So if they were full-time before, they have to go back to that 38 hours.
That's right. So what does that mean? That means that your payroll essentially is going to go back to pre-JobKeeper.
Yep.
If you have not had, if you've not got your plans in place and you've not done your business, I guess, consideration or what's your continuity plan post the ending of JobKeeper, you really do need to take some immediate steps to identify what you're going to be doing, because your employees are going to come in on Monday expecting that everything is back to February 2020.
Look, if there's no change, if you had full-time staff and we've continued to have them full-time hours on JobKeeper, it's not such a big issue.
Nope.
However, if you had full-time staff working 20 hours, you need to make sure that the communication is clear. Like, are they expecting that they can continue? I was talking to someone the other day, this morning actually, whose staff member has decided they actually really like only working 3 days a week and expect that they will be able to continue that way.
Yeah.
So, and there's some situations where businesses don't want the staff to go back to the full-time, in which case it does go through a consultation and potential redundancy of that role. So if there's any of those changes, we strongly recommend that you give us a call, and we can talk you through what the correct process is for making those changes and making sure that we communicate it clearly with staff, and that it doesn't cause any breakdown in those workplace relationships.
That's right. And documentation is still going to be critical to wind up JobKeeper, particularly for those casuals and part-time employees that may only choose to look at their payslip rather than what the media is saying and what's going out and around in their, I guess, the world of industrial relations out there. So in order to make sure that there is clarity right from the get-go, your documentation is still in place. It's still really important and needs to be in place. So when you went to all that effort of having your JobKeeper and admin directives, we need to put not as much time, but we need to put time and consideration into making sure that there is documentation in place to confirm whatever the new arrangements are.
Yeah, perfect.
Right? And you still need to do your monthly business declarations, etc., to wind up for the end of March.
Yeah.
Cool.
Excellent.
But if you have any questions, give us a call. We can run through your individual requirements about where you're at, what you need to be doing, and that may include, looking at redundancies. Capacity to pay is always let's go back, let's jump the slide again, is always going to be a challenge. So if that's something that is really still not clear in your business, give us a call.
Yeah, cool. Okay, next one. So we're all getting a bit excited about the industrial relations reform.
Only people like us get excited about industrial relations reform.
Yeah, but decided to go ahead. It all fell kind of flat on its face.
It did. It was all big swing, no ding.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
No ding.
There was 5 parts that were going to be considered as part of the bill, and then overnight, literally, they just went, well, we're going to abandon 4 parts of it, and we're only going to focus on 1.
Yeah.
So there was obviously some contention between the 2 major political parties about
I think from my reading and understanding of it, there's bipartisan support for the majority of the bill. The area that there was a lot of tension about was the in extending the flexibility of JobKeeper for part-time under some awards. This is something that the coalition really wanted, that Labor didn't. So the coalition said, well, if you're not going to pass that, we're not going to pass the bill, because a lot of the other aspects of the bill the Labor Party wanted. And then anyway, they all came together and decided, okay, well, we'll do the casuals because everybody agreed that was important. But the coalition kind of said, stuff that for the rest of it. We're just going to make you wait it out now until you can get some of these other reforms through.
Yeah.
So good that we've got, and we will talk a little bit about what some of those changes were for casual. So really good that we've got some clarification on that.
Clear as mud.
Clear as mud, yeah. The big ticket item that we were looking at from the bill was what they were going to do with the EBAs, the enterprise bargaining agreements. For those of you that do have enterprise bargaining agreements, you all know that there's a nominal expiry date, but there's no sunset clause. So your EBAs
expiry versus lawful expiry.
Yeah, exactly. So your EBAs can go, and we've seen EBAs that were negotiated back in the 1990s, Lord forbid, under old legislation, completely outdated. We've seen others that were negotiated 2010, 2012. So it's still under Fair Work, but probably a little bit outdated compared to what the awards say nowadays. And there's been a lot of pain around the renegotiation of EBAs and passing the boot test.
Yeah.
So
a big decline in EBAs.
Yeah, big decline, yeah, because they're just too hard to get through at the moment. So in the bill, it looked like they were kind of going to stage that sunset clause.
Well, I think they were looking at, putting a line in the sand that anything that was pre-Fair Work, they were almost saying does not have a place now. So there's going to be some immediate action, which for a number of employers up here does present a challenge because if you're being told that your EBA is going to expire and you may be given a very small lead-in time, you're then going to be forced into either renegotiating or going back to the award. So it could mean a rapid period of change for your business, and it could mean a very large increase to your payroll costs.
Because some of those old EBAs,
back in work choices,
and where there was no boot requirement, you could have just a flat hourly rate.
It was fairly loose.
A loose boot?
It was an NDT.
An NDT.
No disadvantage test.
Right. Yeah, like kind of a sneaker kind of footwear rather than the steel. Yeah, whereas now we've got steel packs.
Exactly right. Double waist.
So some of those old EBAs had things like unlimited overtime, buyout or penalties,
ability to request extra hours at the rate, so voluntary requests for additional hours.
So
all sorts of things.
Those things they were saying we know we will get those renegotiated, be able to get those approved rather.
Which is why employers have held on to these agreements for so long.
Because they've had some real benefits from it. And they were looking, and the bill, from my understanding, was going to go back before Parliament, before the Senate in June, is that correct?
Yeah.
And I think that it's a matter of time until that gets passed. Like, they just won't continue with those old EBAs and allow them to go on and on. So that is expected. So even though we haven't had that passed at the moment, I think that if you are working under an old EBA, you have to face reality that is coming to an end. If it was negotiated pre-Fair Work,
That's pre-2010.
Pre-2010, if you have an EBA that has passed its nominal expiry date but was still in Fair Work, I think you may have a little bit longer to be able to get either a new EBA or revert back to the award. But I think that's going to be coming too. Like, they're just not going to allow them to go on.
And I think that I think there's a really good opportunity for businesses that have got those old EBAs now to be doing some background calculations about what's going to be their best option and how they're going to do it. Is it going to mean that their workplace is going to be restructured because of the addition of penalty rates and overtime? Are they going to have to look at how their rosters are structured, their opening hours, all sorts of things? So we've got a little bit more prep time. So if you're one of those employers that has an EBA that was approved pre-2010, it's almost like the writing's on the wall. You can see the light at the end of the train tunnel. It's coming. You've now got a little bit more time up your sleeves to do some prep work about what it means to have to go back to the award.
But I even think those ones that have passed the nominal expiry date, we've been recommending that the clients that we work, a lot of our clients that we work with, we've been working out some of those calculations anyway, saying, okay, if you had to suddenly revert back to the award and renegotiate, this is what the wage cost would look like for your business under your current structure and rostering that you do at the moment. And, if you've got 12 months, 2 years until you have to do that, at least you've got some wiggle room to try and work out how you're going to do that and how you're going to make your business model fit under this new wage process.
Right. And also thinking about what your employees may lose under their old EBAs, because they're so used to those
voluntary additional hours were really good. Worked really well in the hospitality industry, for example.
But gone now.
Yeah.
So the one bit that did get passed.
Yes. So we have a definition of casual.
And what is that definition, Phoebe?
It is a person. Oh, no.
See, technology doesn't play well with this on Fridays.
A person is a casual employee of an employer if the employer makes no firm advance commitments to continuing an indefinite work according to an agreed pattern of work for the person. So basically,
what does that mean?
It means if you've got a person who's working random shifts or hours all over the place, they can be a casual. If you've got anyone who's got a regular pattern of work that they work, then they are probably not going to be a casual. So I
guess it comes down to that no firm advance commitment.
Yeah. So a couple of points that's really important that I've taken out of it though is that for one thing, you as an employer, you have to offer them the option of transitioning across to being a permanent staff member if they are working those regular hours. If they've been working it, and it will depend upon the award, it's either going to be 6 months or 12 months. A lot of awards already had that in place, but it's consistent now.
All of the modern awards, all of those clauses were inserted. I'm not aware of any modern awards that doesn't have a casual conversion clause in it.
Oh, was it? Well, they've made it all now the 12. Well, no, not all of them.
Building construction is 6 months.
There's a few that are 6 months.
That are 6 months.
Yeah. However, the employee doesn't have to accept that conversion.
And we know that there's a very real consideration to be given to employees that just want the higher hourly rate of pay.
Because they'll lose the 25% casual loading, obviously.
That's right. So they drop the pay, but they pick up the annual leave, they pick up the sick leave and some other lurks and perks of being a full-time or part-time.
Public holidays.
But they also pick up a bit more security in their employment. Well, that's what the legislation says. But casual employees, the market definition of casual employees is sort of somewhat different to what the legislative application is. Yeah,
so in our experience, businesses who have a lot of casual employees and a regular engagement of work, there has been a lot of reluctance both by the employer and the employees to revert to casual. And that's fine as long as the employer is giving the casuals the option.
Yep.
And if they say, no, I don't want to. The big, hairy, scary beast that was around was when we had the rogue commissioner. Was it last year or the year before?
No, it was 2000. Oh, God. See, 2020 has like been erased from my memory.
Yeah,
almost. So
I know. So it's kind of like we leave. I think it was 2019.
That's the work pack case.
Yeah, it was the second work pack case, not
Yeah.
the first one. And they said that this person is defined, they've got regular pattern of work, so they are not casual, they should be permanent. And further to that, they said that you can't offset that 25% loading against the annual leave and the personal leave, which would potentially, if you've got employees who you've been paying that 25% and they go, oh, actually, I probably should have been permanent for the last 3 years, you would then have to go back and pay back all that annual leave and sick leave to them.
And any adjustments if there was penalty rates that didn't apply to
penalty
casual
rates,
employees, but then they have applied to part-timers or full-timers.
Whereas now they still would have to go back and calculate that. However, you can use that 25%.
Shaking the screen.
Sorry. You can use that 25% to offset it, which I think annual leave and personal leave is around about 15%. So in most cases, unless there was a lot of variance, and even your penalty rates on the weekend, it wouldn't work out to be that much, I wouldn't have thought.
Well, it's
Maybe
going to
some
vary
odd
on
things
award to award, because there are some provisions that there's a drastic difference between the penalty rate
For a casual and a permanent.
Yeah.
So, but that is really good news. So if you have been paying them as casuals and then they say actually they should have been permanent, you can use that extra 25%. It's not all doom and gloom. You can use that 25%. So, and every 6 months you need to continually go back to those regular and systematic casuals and offer them the option and do it in writing. No,
I think that's a really, really important message, because quite often we have these conversations. And Phoebe, would you like to go casual? And you say, no,
I'd love to go casual.
Would you?
Casual?
No, you can't. So you have to play along. We've rejected the offer.
Do I want to go permanent?
You want to go permanent?
No.
You want to stay casual.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you go on, you have your weekend.
And then Dee's been mean to me and I don't want to work anymore.
I'm not sharing my chocolate.
You're not sharing my chocolate. And I go, actually, I wanted to be permanent and you wouldn't let me.
And you've got nothing.
Yeah, and I say, and you never offered that to me, that option of going across.
Or I didn't understand that's what you meant.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't understand. I was forced to stay casual.
If you've got a workforce that has got some language barriers, it's a very real consideration. And we've been working with some systems and templates, and we've come up with some quite user-friendly templates for employers to be able to use to document that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if that's going to be something that you need to consider, we're going to talk about all your actions, because you've got your notepads out and you're writing down all the things you need to do. We're going to recap on that at the end, but it's something we can help you with.
Oh, we just spoke about that.
Yeah.
They have the right to refuse.
Casual.
Yeah, you can talk about the casuals redundancy notice.
Well, give me all the hard ones, why don't you? So there's still this question about casuals and redundancy. So do casual employees get redundancy? The Fair Work legislation, the way it's written, it says no casual employees are exempt from redundancy. But one has to ask the question that if they then were going to challenge you for a miscalculation or a missed status, saying that you told me I was casual, but really I thought I was part-time, and they challenged you for it, there very well could be an application there for redundancy.
Yeah.
Casual employees followed by a period of full-time employment is another consideration. So whilst the legislation says casuals are not entitled to redundancy, if they're followed by a period of full-time or part-time employment, does that then alter the interpretation? The way the legislation is written, you could say no. It still says that that period of casual employment would be exempt from the calculation, but we have had cases, very few cases, that have overturned that. So it's almost like, how long's a piece of string? Got no idea, don't know. So the way the legislation is written says no. Could it be challenged? Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, and so there is a real, our advice is, if you have got casuals that are employed on a regular and systematic basis, treat them as if they were permanent, whether that be going through consultation about redundancy, certainly not for the performance management, certainly for the redundancy. I wouldn't just be paying them out a redundancy payment unless they challenged it, and then we'd probably look at it case by case scenario, and it could be challenged. But how you go about it. So if you've been casual and you've been working 5 years, regular hours, and then the business just says, oh, you're a casual, I don't require you any longer. There's no consultation, there's no redeployment opportunities, there's no notice period for it. I think that you potentially are in a very red area where you could be seen to be non-compliant.
Danger, Will Robinson.
Danger, yeah. Whereas if you've got a casual who's only worked with you for 3 months and they've been, and their business has taken a bit of a down, it's seasonal, and you say, we're not going to need you, next month, it's not going to be an issue. But if this has been over more than 12 months and they've been systematic, certainly I would be treating them exactly the same as I would be for those permanent staff.
I think it goes to that age-old thing that if you're a casual employee, people employed casuals because they were easier.
Yeah.
That has been significantly eroded with the legislation over the last 10 years, 20 years since, 10 years since Fair Work came in.
Yeah.
And you have to treat them exactly the same, particularly if they've been with you past 12 months. So the practical application. So how do you go about determining if they really do fit that casual definition? What the court will look at if they're going to determine if an employee should have been full-time or part-time is outlined in those sort of dot points. So it's whether or not the employee can elect to offer work or whether they can reject work. So if you have them on a roster and they ring up and they say, yeah, no, look, I really don't feel like working today. So I'm not going to show up to my shift. Is that the expectation of the arrangement? Or if they're a true casual, essentially you might ring them up and say, hey, look, we've got Mary who's called in sick today. We've got an extra shift. Do you want to come in and do it? And they go, yeah, no, I want to go to the beach. Okay, great, thanks. And they call the next person. That's really what a casual employee is meant to be. But we also know the practical application of that is somewhat different. Whether the person is expected to work as required according to the needs of the employer. So we need you to be here every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. As soon as we start to say that, we're giving that expectation. There's a regular and systematic approach to their engagement. Whether or not the employment is described as a casual, whether the employment is described as casual employment, I do not think it is enough to have 25% loading on their payslip. That's one of the requirements. Have you got a letter of appointment that actually specifies they're a casual employee, that they're engaged as a casual engagement? If you don't have any contracts,
so there's no expectation for ongoing work. It's really specific, the wording you need to have in those casual contracts.
Yeah. So if you engage casuals and you don't give them a letter of appointment, that's red flag number one.
Yeah.
Because you're eroding the ability for the court to determine, have you met the criteria?
Yeah.
And whether the person will be entitled to a casual loading.
Or specific rate of pay for casual.
Yep. Yeah. So that's the practical application. Like I said, clear as mud. You're going backwards, Phoebe.
Oh gosh, I am too. How do I do this?
No, you're going way, way, way back.
Okay, let's go this way.
Go one more.
Okay. Woo. Oh, we spoke about that before. That's the offsetting.
So it's good that this is now actually clarified in legislation. So it does give, I guess, a sense of relief to employers.
It was sending heebie-jeebies around a lot of employers thinking, oh my gosh, what if I have to go back and
the exposure
and pay
was
the
massive.
They couldn't pass it to do it, could they? Because it would have just broken the back of businesses and small businesses in particular.
Oh, absolutely. But the fear is that we literally had a commissioner. Whilst the commissioner made a determination within the scope of the law, it was described as a commissioner going rogue.
Yeah.
Because the custom and precedent of the decision that they made at that particular time, what that actually did to the industrial relations landscape of casual employees was they literally threw the hornet's nest, kicked it and ran.
Put a
and
bit of petrol.
Then they came back with work pack number 2, hit it with a blowtorch and ran again. So it was cat amongst the pigeon type stuff. So we're feeling a little bit better. Wage theft, because then
this is the hot issue.
It is. And then we'll go back to that casual thing. So the work pack case and the double dipping, there was a very strong link between, okay, well, God, if I have engaged my casual employee and they were meant to be permanent and I owe them money, is that wage theft? Am I going to go to jail?
So this was actually something that went through the bill. So previously, there used to be no ability to have criminal convictions
Put the cuffs on and haul your way.
Yeah, if you hadn't paid your employees correctly. Queensland introduced legislation last year.
2019 or 2020?
Yeah, 2019 or 2020.
Oh, no, you started this conversation.
Yeah, no, I should never have got so specific with it. They introduced legislation recent times, that actually has made it a criminal offence. This was actually one of the things that was part of the bill that they're putting through the Senate. So they're looking at making it a criminal conviction on a federal basis, so all states will have the same ability. Now, like, don't get me wrong, I think if people are making a mistake with payroll, I don't think they're going to be sending you to jail.
Yeah.
But
it's malicious intent.
Malicious intent, yeah. So I'm paying you only $15 an hour, and I know that's below the minimum wage, not paying you any penalties, slave labour.
Or even just trying to skate under the award. So if you had, let's say, the restaurant industry for award, qualified chef, you might engage them on the introductory rate because you want to assess their performance. But that very clearly says that, no, that's not possible.
Don't send them to jail for that?
Well, if there's a custom and practice, and if they've been doing it for every employee over a prolonged period of time,
it could be.
It could be.
So blatantly underpaying.
Yeah, and deliberately. There's a difference between payroll errors and rectification versus deliberate intent. So if you've got people who are, not even concerned with what their award might be, not paying penalties, not paying allowances, when, you could pretty much say you'd have to be living under a rock if you didn't know what your award coverage was going to be. So in those cases where you cannot draw a connection between a misinterpretation of an award clause or incorrect application versus, I don't care what the application is, I'm just going to do my own thing because I think I can.
Yeah.
They're the cases, that's it. And they're the cases that now could see you behind bars, like the little red square on the Monopoly board, do not pass go.
Do not pass. Do not pass.
No community chest for you.
In the vast majority of cases that we have seen this happen, though, it's not wage theft and employers doing the wrong thing. The vast majority of cases that we have experienced through our clients, and also that we have seen in the media, it has been a genuine misinterpretation, where they have not applied the correct classifications for the roles, where they have not correctly understood the allowances or the penalties or the break times. And what can happen is it can be quite a small allowance. So it may just be a 7% penalty that they get for working some sort of shift. But then when you have to go back 7 years, and when you've got 100 staff that you have to do that with, it starts to become a really expensive problem. And this is the case that happened with Coles and Woolworths recently. They just weren't understanding their industrial instrument. I think they were both EBAs with it.
Yep.
But we've had some clients come to us this year who have been following the award, and they have had HR teams, like dedicated HR professionals, and it's a set and forget. You employ someone
where there's been a change.
Yeah, where there's been a change, or further clarification. So it may be silent on an issue, and then there has been more direction that has been provided from Fair Work through some test cases, and there is more information to more understanding as to how that penalty or allowance or whatever should be applied. And if you haven't kept on top of that and made sure that you are up to date with what the correct rates, penalties, allowances, etc. are, you could be in a world of pain. And it does go back 7 years.
Yep.
If you that you need to go back, and even if your staff have left, they still say that you're supposed to you're meant to give the money to ATO actually if you can't find them. Yep. You have to show what actions you've undertaken to try and find the people, and then you have to, if you can't find them still, you have to give the money to the ATO, and then you've got superannuation and compounded interest on top of that. Compounding interest is just
and potentially depending on the level of breach, the volume of people and the volume of money owed, Fair Work can request you to enter into an enforceable undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
So they may choose not to fine you as an employer for being in contravention, as they say, to an award provision, and they may accept that you generally made a mistake. And so it's not a wage theft issue, but it's still a rectification issue. And they may ask you to enter into an enforceable undertaking. And if you look on the Fair Work website and you put in there enforceable undertakings, you'll see all of the clients that have had to do it. Most of them include a payment to consolidated state revenue, so you could argue whether that's a fine or not, but it's that public acknowledgement then that
name and shame.
It is name and shame, and partly why Fair Work do that is to assist in finding the employees. Right. So they put it out in the public arena so that, you know, it might have been Coles or Woolworths. I think Dusk was the last one that came through. By putting it out there, any employee that may have worked can then contact, you know, and actually get their rectification. So it's not just, it's the public image that goes with it. The compliance, yes, you may be absolutely 100% committed to rectifying it at whatever cost and go above and beyond and doing everything you can to do the rectification. There still could be that public element that could cause further damage to the reputation of your business potentially.
So if this is causing you some angst and
keeping you awake at night,
if you haven't gone through and recently checked your contracts, your reward, your pay rates, your allowances, you should be feeling worried.
If technology is a wonderful thing, you know, so we have moved now into an age where we have electronic time and attendance recording systems, you know, they're finger vein scanners or what codes, whatever it might be. And a lot of those time and attendance systems have a built-in award interpreter, right? So it's built in, so the time comes in, it filters through the award interpreter and it spits out the other end how much they're meant to get paid. That then integrates with the payroll system. So it makes payroll, allegedly, really, really easy and really streamlined. If you don't do a regular audit on your award interpreter, and like that set and forget type thing, then it's usually one little part of it that gets missed. We check the contracts, we check the grading. Yep, cool. Have we checked that the award interpreter that's built into our time and attendance is still compliant with the award?
This also comes back, and I know we've harped about this before, your timesheets, because if there is ever a wage theft issue, it will come back to those time and attendance. You know, what hours did they work, what breaks did they have? And if you don't have any timesheets or time recordings, or, you know, some places just use rosters, and that rosters is fine as long as they're an accurate reflection. So if you've got people that always start and finish and have breaks at this time, and that's their roster, and any changes get signed off on, I don't have an issue with that, as long as you've got something that's solid that can say this is proof as to what this person worked. Yeah, that links to your payroll output.
And this is sort of where employers can find themselves in a little bit more hot water, because they may have made an honest mistake about a penalty application. Okay, people make mistakes, but then if Fair Work are investigating that and they then found that you have not got accurate record keeping, you haven't got your timesheets, you haven't got, you know, classification documentation, all of those things, or your pay slips are non-compliant, each one of those is a contravention in its own right. So it may have been one issue that has been identified, which then turns into 3 or 4 issues, which then may impact on the penalty, the undertaking, the publicity,
and what's going to happen with that.
Yeah. This one, community service portable long service leave. Now, I'm going to admit that this legislation came in on the 1st of January 2021. You need to go back again.
We've gone all over the place. Keep talking.
All right, community service. The community service industry, portable long service leave. So we're familiar with portable long service leave from the building industry. Q leave has been around for quite some time, but
hold on, some people won't. So what happens with?
Am I going down the DM knowledge?
DM knowledge, yeah. So that for those people that don't know what it means, is that some industries, like the construction industry, there is a whenever a new development's being done, the developers have to put money into the portable long service leave, Q leave, and what it does is that it means that if I'm a a tradie and I'm jumping from building site to building site depending upon where the work is.
Still in the same industry.
Still in the same industry, but just working for a lot of different contractors depending upon work's available. My time, QLeave will acknowledge that time that I have continued to work in the industry and give me service credits, and so I'll get paid out long service leave. Now this is really good for the construction industry because it means they don't have to accrue and they don't have to pay for long service leave for those people that have got the QLeave credits, because it's all funded through new developments. It's a Queensland thing. I don't think every state has it. I don't know if some states have
is very much a Queensland thing.
Hence the Q. So this has come in, and it's to encourage people to stay working within the industry. So they have
also in recognition that the industry is transient.
Transient, yeah. So this is a new leave that has been brought in for the community service industry. And again, it's trying to recognise that it is transient. Different organisations get different contracts from time to time.
Or that people will do the same sort of work, like say disability support work, for example, and they will go from provider to provider. Or they may work for more than one provider part-time capacity.
Because a lot of the work will depend upon who's got contracts, who's got government contracts, or who's got NDIs.
No contracts with this one.
We'll know as to whether or not they've got work. The difference, the big difference with this though, is that whereas before we had developers paying for it, the portable long service leave is actually paid for by the employer, and they've got a levy of 1.13, is it?
1.35.
1.35 of their payroll that they're going to have to pay into that portable long service leave pool on an annual basis.
Quarterly.
Oh, quarterly, yeah. They pay it quarterly, but it's, so that's going to be quite a big expense for any of you. If you're not a community service industry, then you don't need to worry. Be aware of it. I don't know if this is a trend, if we're going to see more of these or not.
I think it is, because there's a recognition that people don't stay with employers for.
Imagine if they bring it in for hospitality.
Oh Lord, it's already in for contract cleaning.
Right,
so contract cleaning came in about 2016, don't quote me on that. Community service is the next industry, I guess, off the taxi rank. There is a definition. So jump onto QLeave, check your definition, check whether you're covered, because it's quite specific. For example, like it includes people who do childcare work, but doesn't include standalone childcare centres. So there is very much a link, and it's quite a clear definition. You'll need to register your business, you need to register your employees, you need to pay the levy. And what it will mean is that from the 1st of January, any service will go into the QLeave bank for long service leave. So when it's time to take their long service leave, they apply to the employer for the time, QLeave for the money.
Yeah.
Right?
So
anything before January 2021 is still under the standard long service leave system. So if you've got an accrual for an employee at that time, you've still got to hold on to it.
Yeah, so it might be part paid, part. Up till now, you'll get paid from the employer. If you're eligible, your time will be paid for by the employer, but anything from now on will get paid from the portable long service leave. So it's the other thing that is important to understand is, so in 2010 with Fair Work, we saw harmonisation of workplace relations where it all came into a federal system. The exception to that is long service leave, which remains state. So Fair Work is not going to be the right place, or just generally Googling Australia-wide is not going to be the right place for this. It is a very specific Queensland legislation that we need to look at.
I think if you Google community service, portable long service leave, it'll take you straight to QLeave, and they've got 3 tabs at the top: construction, contract cleaning, community service.
Right, there you go. Couldn't be simpler.
Yeah. First reporting period is the 14th of April, or the main reporting period is 14th of April. So if you are in that bucket, you need to get your skates on.
Yeah. COVID vaccination. Jab. The jab. Actually, I spoke to someone this morning who had their first jab. He was an older guy who's lost his spleen, and he said that he was able to get it up there. So they're starting to roll out. So the question from an employer's perspective is, can you enforce your employees to get them? And the answer to that is Yes and no. So if you have an industry that is a requirement and it's a health direction that people have a vaccination, so we're thinking people that are working with vulnerable people in health and aged care, those types of areas, absolutely,
Indigenous health,
but it's a health direction, so it kind of is above that workplace relations. This is a health direction for people that are working in this area. They have to be vaccinated. Therefore, for you to be able to employ them and engage them to work in the sector, you're going to have staff that have got that vaccination. If that's not the case, if it's not mandated for you, then you can encourage, you can recommend, you can put a policy in place, but people do have the right to object due to whatever reason. I don't like getting injections, I'm a non-believer, whatever the case is, so you can't enforce it. And you certainly couldn't terminate, or they would have rights from a general protections point of view if they were disadvantaged in the workplace in any way, shape or form just because they refused to get the COVID vaccination.
Yeah, and I think that Phoebe said before, it is that sort of health mandate, so it's not up to the employer to determine whether or not they believe all of their employees should have the COVID vaccination. Their health directives, if it's a workplace that's identified, for example, then you would say, yes, it is mandatory. There's still going to be the option if people have a genuine medical issue that needs to be considered in receiving the vaccination.
And medical practitioner would need to verify that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's still a process. So if there is an absolute reason that, they have an anaphylactic, allergy to, was it eggs, and something about the egg protein being in most injections. I heard it. Right. Don't quote me on that.
But there's certainly some people that have got allergies towards injections.
But it wouldn't be just I'm allergic to it. There'd have to be some medical evidence behind that. But that only applies in those health directive type industries. Mm-hmm. The general public, it can be nice to have. You can encourage it. You can,
and you could have a policy on it. You don't have to have a policy on it. I guess you need to look at your business and think as to whether or not you think it is relevant and appropriate.
And whether you're in that sort of high risk category or in that as health directive categories. Yeah. Oh, actions. So these are all of the things that you've been writing down as we've been speaking, because you've been, really tuned into what we're saying. So your JobKeeper, have you got your correspondence? Have you got your plans? Do you need help? Casual conversion, how are you going to do your review of the casuals to make sure you're compliant with the award and the new IR reforms? Offers of conversion, templates for refusal. Okay, so there's some key takeaways from today that you need to have some documentation in place. Your COVID vaccinations, do you need a policy? Do you not need a policy? Is it just something that you're going to write out? And if people want to go and get their own vaccinations through their GP, no issue, off you go, see you later. And then the community services portable long service leave. Do you need to register, and do you need to have any plans in place for reporting if you are in that sector?
And the other two things that we didn't write down, but that you need to be thinking about is, have I got an EBA that has passed its nominal expiry date? And should you be having a look to see if you had to pass the boot test, if you had to renegotiate, if you had to go to the award, what would the impact be for your business if you did that? And secondly, have you done a recent check? I think it's annually now that there needs to be a really good look at your contracts and your pay rates just to make sure that you're ticking all the boxes. And that you're meeting all of the allowances and classifications and penalties and everything. So those are the areas. Obviously, if you need any help with any of those things, don't hesitate to give us a call. Dee will be more than happy to help you with it.
Yeah. And I think just adding on to that EBA, what we are finding with some of the clients that we're working with that have got those really old EBAs is they've got the EBA here, but the EBA is no longer sort of really fit for purpose. It's got some great things that they want to keep, but they've morphed.
So they use the best of both worlds.
They're using the best of both worlds, which does put them in a very difficult situation because the EBA is still a legal document, but they then, by virtue of the fact, have cherry-picked bits and pieces.
We like cherries.
I love cherries.
Okay, so exciting stuff. We're now an office of 3 down in Maroochydore. So that's Leanne.
That is Leanne.
Yes. And Desiree, I
She's
know
on
you're on the
week
call,
3,
so
Desiree's week 1.
yeah, so we haven't got your photo
Exciting.
yet, Desiree. We will feature you next time. So yeah, we're really excited. We've had a great response. We're getting lots of people inquiries and people calling us and finding out about our services. So we are extremely grateful to the Sunshine Coast business community for all the support and making us feel
welcome. And all of our
welcome.
Cairns people that have got connections down there that are going, oh, hey, I use these guys up in Cairns. They can help you out down there.
So that's super exciting for us, and
it gives us somewhere cool to go visit.
It does. All work trips.
Yes. Absolutely.
100%.
That photo.
I didn't even know the Sunshine Plaza existed. Don't even know that it's there. No.
I've not been there, so I can legitimately hand on heart say that I haven't been there.
I only know that Noosa's got restaurants because I've seen it in photos.
Never been to any of them.
Never been to any of them.
Where'd you get that new dress you bought the other day?
Oh, no. That was given to me by somebody. So that is
we got
us.
questions.
If we got some questions.
And happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Yes, absolutely. So now is the time if you have got some Q&As that you would like to jump in and ask us. Don't be shy. Please feel free to, give a really hard curly one to Deanne and put her on the spot and, see if she can not answer it for you. But if you're too shy to come out and ask a question on the webinar, you know that you can email us, you can phone us. We would love to hear from you. So spreading the great word of HR out there, that's what we are all about.
Isn't it really sad that when I say to people happy Easter, the next sentence that I usually come up with is, don't forget your gazetted public holidays.
Yeah. So that's a really good point, Deanne. Run us through those gazetted public holidays for Easter.
Well, at the moment, they are Good Friday, Easter Saturday, Easter Sunday, and Easter Monday.
Yeah. But if you are a traditionally Monday to Friday worker, do you have to pay any additional penalties if they work the Saturday, Sunday, which are 2 gazetted public holidays?
Are they working or are they at home?
They're at home.
Well, unless you work for anybody else other than HR Dynamics, because you're going to give me an extra 2 days, aren't you?
Oh, of course.
Yes. The answer is no. So the purpose of a public holiday, if you're not open and not working on public holidays, is that the employee shall suffer no deduction in pay for the day that would have been a public holiday. So if they were never going to be required to be at work on the Saturday or the Sunday, no additional.
No, and that's because the business isn't open. So if you are a Monday to Friday and you're closed Saturday, Sunday, you don't have to worry about it. If you are a restaurant who opens 7 days a week and you have decided not to roster people on the Saturday, Sunday, they still would be eligible for it because that potentially would be part of their day. So you have to look at your business as to, are you a 7-day, 6-day, if you just want to include the Saturday or Sunday, or are you a Monday to Friday?
Yep. And Easter Sunday only became a gazetted public holiday about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So Sunday was never deemed to be a normal day of work under the Holidays Act of 1983. Look it up.
Right, there you go. Yeah,
because
this is just geek.
We didn't work on Sundays, and that's back when the supermarkets used to shut at midday on a Saturday.
Well, they used to be closed in New Zealand.
No, see, we used to get really excited because we'd go down to Stockholm Melville. That's what it was called at the time, and then only ever be open till midday. So you had to get in.
I remember in Christchurch, where I grew up, the Brighton shopping centre used to be open on Saturdays, and it was the only place that you could go to. So yeah, we've moved on from that, haven't we?
Yeah, now we're open 7 days a week.
Yeah, 24 hours in some cases.
But yeah, Easter Sunday definitely a gazetted public holiday now, as per the Queensland legislation. So if you're in that mindset that Easter Sunday is not a public holiday, you would have been right about 2 years ago, but the legislation has changed.
Awesome. Okay. Well, on that note,
we did such a good job. We have no questions.
We wish you all lots of fluffy bunnies and chickens and Easter eggs. Enjoy your break. We've got lots of Easter eggs here, so come and see us because we've got Easter eggs to give you.
We can have coffee and Easter eggs.
Okay. Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.